GetLowered, thanks again for tuning into yet another video. Infamous coming at you live from the West Coast yet again, San Jose, California. So let's go ahead and look at some alternatives for the Super Cruiser. It's a beautiful bike. All right, I already mentioned it. I like the styling. I like the frame. I like the performance numbers, everything about it. I'm a huge fan of this bike. Like I said, beautiful bike. I like the way it looks. I like the performance out of it. I'm a fan of it. If it was a little bit down, maybe towards the $18,000-$17,000 mark, maybe I'll probably consider putting a deposit in. But it's like I mentioned, it's not my kind of bike. Performance, I'm not huge on performance. I have a Harley-Davidson. I rode my stage 1 for a long time, 2 years before I even went up to a stage 2. And, like I mentioned, I'm pretty satisfied with the performance out of my Harley. This is like twice the performance out of this Super Cruiser, considering the weight of the Super Cruiser and the performance of the engine performance of the Super Cruiser. So enough rambling. I just wanted to upload a video on some alternatives, considering some of the cons with the Super Cruiser. Right, you guys already seen the text right there at the bottom. You got to pre-order this bike. It's a production deposit, which is $1,000, so you could get that price of $24,000. If you don't make it by November 12th. If you don't have your deposit by November 12th for the Super Cruiser, then you're going to be paying the $26,000 mark. Pretty expensive, all right. But considering inflation and the economy. And I mean, EBR announced this bike 3 years ago, and they had that price point of $25,000. I think, of course, the cost of everything has gone up, and for EBR to maintain or to keep that promise of that price mark, I think it's pretty cool. So, anyways, like I said, this is probably alternatives for this style of bike. All right, there's not many out there, but there is a few out there currently, which is a little bit of a classic retro styling with modern performance and handling and other stuff. All right, but let's go ahead and look at some alternative options. Enough rambling. So let's start with the cheapest. We're going to be going from the cheapest to probably the most expensive. So let's start with the Vulcan S, a little bit of a modern cruiser. You guys can see the stance on this one. You still have that triangle of a cruiser, but a modern take, of course, performance, handling, and comfort. All right, so that's pretty much what the cruiser is. I know the bikes don't look identical. All right, I know the performance on the Super Cruiser is also significantly more than the Vulcan S. But this is a $10,000 bike, brand new. Like I said, some of the cons with the Super Cruiser, that if you guys haven't seen my other video, it doesn't have dealer support. There's also some R&D stuff that we really don't know how the bike's going to handle once it hits the mass market. That's usually what happens. We start seeing some of the defects, some of the issues. How are we going to get those parts to our local dealership? How many local dealerships do you have close by? I'm in California. We have 2 repair centers and one display dealership. They're not close to to my area. I believe the closest one is probably 100 miles away from me. So if I do have an issue with my Super Cruiser, what's going to happen with the parts? That 1190 Vortex engine that they do have in that Super Cruiser is modified by EBR. So to order parts, I'm looking at ordering parts through EBR to repair my Super Cruiser. So, like I mentioned, Kawasaki, they have dealerships. The dealer support is a little bit better, but like I mentioned, they're going to have parts. You're going to be able to order those parts. That you're going to be able to repair your bike if for whatever reason happens. And on top of that, the Vulcan S has been around for a lot longer than the Super Cruiser. That's some of the things that you guys have to consider when you're thinking about putting a deposit on a bike that hasn't hit the market, that doesn't have any R&D backing it, and everything about it is new. So we don't know like I said, all the defects. You guys saw what happened with the with the 2024 117s. A lot of issues. You guys saw what happened with the 2017 M8s, touring models. Some issues. So it's just, you know, I'm just thinking about mainly the repair and the dealer support for the Super Cruisers. And these bikes on my list have all of that. They've been around for some time. The engines are tried and true. And the dealer support is there for these bikes. And of course, the price. Moving on to the next one, the Rebel 1100. So the Rebel 500, no, the Rebels 300, 500, they have been around for a while. The powertrain on this one has been around for quite a while. All right. So if you guys know the 1100, it's also in the Africa Twin. So the powertrain on the Rebel 1100 is tried and true. Also, you also have the dealer support. So you have that. You also have a little bit of aftermarket support on the Rebel 1100 because it is the same frame as the 300 and the 500 that have been around for, I believe, 3 to 4 years. So they've been around a little bit longer. You also have some other aftermarket parts from Honda because they do make a 1100T. I don't have that one selected. I don't have that model, but you could also get saddlebags and you could get a fairing on this one too. Like I said, the Rebel 1100T has that's from Honda. So this one comes in at $9,000 once again. This one also has a dual clutch transmission if you do need that option. For some reason, you know, if you're a little bit older and you can't pull that clutch anymore, or having some hand pains or whatever, just due to age, you'll be able to get the 1100 DCT option, and that will help you with riding. So like I mentioned, this one does have a little bit more aftermarket support. So there's, you know, you just got to consider everything, you know, other than just the cool factor of the Super Cruiser. Like I said, this one has dealer support, aftermarket support, and the engine is tried and true. The 1100 has been around in multiple different models when it comes to Honda. So moving on to the next one, FTR 1200. Test rode this one quite a few times. This one does have a little bit of that, you know, flat track racer, cafe racer type of feel because of the foot controls. They're a little bit under your butt, but you're still upright, slightly leaning forward. And of course, this one comes in at $13,500. It's got the performance, got the feel. The bike looks fantastic. It doesn't look like a cruiser, but like the XSR 900. It's got a little bit of that retro style once again. So fantastic looking bike. I test rode the Carbon, which is, I believe, this one, $18,000. Everything about the bike, fantastic. Looks great. I like, you know, the golden inverted forks. Like I said, it's got a little bit of the performance, a little bit of that style. The frame painted red looks very Ducati-ish performance, stuff like that. So another good option, an FTR. And like I said, you're not breaking the bank on this one. You also have the dealer support. Polaris is going to be around for a little bit, and the FTR has been around for not a long time, but it's been around a lot longer than the Super Cruiser. Moving on to, I would say, my favorite one out of all of these. Right, I test rode this one recently, and I was just blown away by the way it handles, but it's just the way it looks. Everything about the bike, I really, really liked it. The new Speed Plus engine on this, man, it's just, I was really taken back on how well this bike performed, the way it handled. Even though we were supervised in my demo event riding, I could feel that the bike had so much more potential when, you know, riding, performance, handling, everything about the bike. Fantastic, huge fan. That paint, amazing, beautiful paint, not just black. All right, red. You know, the graphics, everything about it, style-wise, the piggyback shocks, the inverted forks. Man, this bike was very impressive. I would say out of all of these, the 101 Scout is by far my favorite performance cruiser. Anyways, like I mentioned, not all of these are going to hit the same performance mark as a Super Cruiser, all right? This is a bike that's $9,000 cheaper than the Super Cruiser, but it's got some benefits. Like I said, the dealer support, the aftermarket support, considering that the Super Cruiser doesn't have any of that. And then, of course, the frame, the powertrain has been around a bit longer than the 1190. So 111 horsepower, 82 foot-pounds of torque. The bike weighs 540 pounds. The bike feels fantastic, all right? And the actual rider position is also great. You guys can see it's got slightly forward mids. You're not fully stretched. The bike feels great, all right? Big fan of upright position like most of these on this list. Let's move on to the next one, the Yamaha, the Yamaha VMAX. Another bike, I would say out of all the bikes that's on the list, this one is the one that gets closer to the performance mark of the Super Cruiser. Yes, it does not look as cool, in my opinion, as the Super Cruiser, but, you know, it's got the performance. This one, of course, has been discontinued. You can't buy this brand new. But, of course, you're going to have, like I said, the dealer support. The parts are going to be out there. Yamaha might bring this back in production or whatnot. But this one, I believe, comes in at 200 horsepower, I believe. This one is one of those that gets close to the performance and the price tag as well, I believe. I'm not sure if that's the 17. It is a 17, but $18,000. I thought this came in a little bit more expensive than that when it was in production, so it looks like it's still cheaper than the Super Cruiser. And of course, I believe this has 200 horsepower. Not entirely sure. I'm not going to look at the specs, but of course, it looks pretty cool with these intakes on the side of the bike. I remember when I first saw this, you know, 3-4 years ago. I thought it was pretty neat that it's got those huge intakes like blowers. You guys get what I'm saying? So pretty cool, liquid cooled VMAX. Overall, it's a good looking bike. You know, same rider position, of course. This one's a little bit more aggressive, but it's, you know, it's got a little bit of that cruiser hint to it. A little bit, of course. It's not anything like a cruiser, which is what makes it special. So let's move on to the Rocket 3. This one is still a little bit cheaper than the Super Cruiser, slightly, but of course we are really moving away from the cruiser style. You know, it still has that fitment, that positioning of a cruiser, so that's why this is on that list. And at $23,800, you're pretty much where the Super Cruiser is as far as MSRP. But like I said, you guys gotta remember, this one has dealer support. This one has been around since 2016, 2017, or 2018. This one has been around for a lot longer. And of course, if you need parts, you just visit Triumph and then get whatever parts you need to repair the bike, if it comes down to that. All right, so let's check out the Sportster S real quick. Of course, I'm not a huge fan of the way this one looks. I'm not a fan of the big fat front tire. I'm not a fan of the rear fender, the seat, the exhaust. I mean, a lot of it looks really cartoony. I'm not a huge fan, but this is another option out there. Of course, you have that liquid cooled overhead cam, dual overhead cam design. Performance, of course, it's there. Over 100 horsepower straight from factory. Doesn't break the bank at $17,000. I believe Harley can produce something closer to the Super Cruiser with this, with this platform, with this frame, with this powertrain. You guys saw what they can do with the same frame, the same powertrain. They could make the Pan America, and they can make the Bronx, which is not released, of course, and they could also make the Nightster. So somewhere in between, I believe Harley can probably make a Super Cruiser competitor by using this platform that they already have. So it's pretty fantastic. They could give it that Nightster look with the performance of a Sportster S. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching yet another video. I'm rambling. The video's getting long. You guys let me know in the comments, what would you rather purchase, or what would you rather ride? Would you rather ride a 101, which is what I would rather ride, a 101, a Scout 101, or are you guys a little bit more on the performance side? You guys want a VMAX, or maybe you guys want a Rocket 3, maybe. I mean, there's a lot of great options. Or maybe you just want something reliable, something that's just reliable, like the Rebel 1100. That powertrain's been around for a while. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching yet another video. Life's a risk. Get out there and ride. Please leave a like on the video. Later.